Camera's happy?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Joe, looking at this team, a couple of big inclusions would start with Valentini. What was the deciding factor behind having him finish the game rather than as a starter?
Just the fact that the back row have been going well as a combination, and you know, sometimes they just merited continuance, and at the same time, you know, it'll give us a chance for Bobby to spend a bit of time watching the first half and get his head in the game, and then, you know, he'll certainly get his body into the game.
On Bobby, is that tough role in the same one that he's had issue with the entire series, and how do you go about trying to manage something so delicate like that?
Yeah, it's not the same one, so you don't. One of the unfortunate things is if you get a one-sided injury, you often start to favour the other side, and you just become more susceptible to an injury there. So you try to make sure that their gait is absolutely right, that they're very balanced in how they're running, just to try to make sure that that doesn't happen. But you know, the human body is a difficult thing to keep total control of, and unfortunately we just got that second calf injury that has pretty much kept Bobby out of most of the games that we've had so far. You know, we've had 9 games, and you know, Bobby's had very little involvement.
Joe, the change of fly half, what was the reasoning behind starting Tane ahead of James?
Yeah, I mean, again, with the experience that James brings, we still see that as being important coming off the bench, and he and Nick White and Tom Liner have all been helping Tane to prepare himself. I felt Tane was pretty unlucky in the Argentinian test. You know, the distance back from Montoya was a little bit tight, and caught him unawares. But apart from that, he actually did some really good things, and Whitey would tell you himself that he got in the way of the goal line dropout that Tane tries to catch. He had some really good moments, some really good passing moments. Obviously hit the 50-22, and he's built into the week really confidently, and we've got confidence in him.
And what's the latest on Tom Liner? Is he still available?
No, Tom didn't quite get to where we needed him to be, or where he was comfortable to go top speed, and you can't afford to go and do an All Black Test match if you're not moving at top speed. So, you know, unfortunately, Tom isn't yet available. We'd be hoping that he will be available by the time we depart on the spring tour.
Joe, you mentioned Nick White before. How close was he to actually playing? Is that ever realistic?
No, Whitey just wanted to come in and be, you know, this is his hometown now, and he just wanted to be part of the preparation, really. So we don't have an ambition for him to play. That was never the intention. He just said, look, do you mind if I come along and train? And he's such a good leader in the group. We were delighted that he rocked up and certainly kept a bit of pressure on the boys at training, and at the same time he's got a good eye for the game, so he's dropping a bit of feedback to the nines, and he and Jake have spent a fair bit of time together, and same with him and Ryan Lonergan when they were at the Brumbies together. So really good, strong relationships with those two nines. It made a really profitable week in terms of them drilling themselves on their individual skills.
And Carlo Giussano, a rare Perth raised Wallaby, can you talk us through that decision to leave him out for this one?
Yeah, I spoke to Carlo about it, and I said, look, the back row as a whole have been going really well, and you know, we've got Bobby Valentini that we want to get back into the group. And you know, to be fair to Carlo, he shrugged his shoulders and said, oh, well, yeah, Bobby's Bobby. And the thing is, Carlo's been going really well for us. And that meant that it's hard to leave him out, but at the same time, you know, you earn the right to get back into the gold jersey, and with what Bobby has done for us in recent years, it's hard to argue that he's not a guy who, you know, demands a place in the 23, or if not the 15 when he's fully fit. and well conditioned. So we'll try to manage his minutes a little bit in the weekend and see how we go.
Joe, no Angus Bell, is that an injury issue or just giving him a rest?
Yeah, he's just got a little bit of a rib injury and it's been lingering, and in Tuesday's training he just kind of hurt it again, and we just felt that it was a good time to give him a rest, and we've got lots of confidence in Tom Robertson. Obviously Angus is a premium player for us, and has been incredibly good coming off the bench. Last week he did some super stuff. He stopped Artie dead in one carry where it ended up shoulder on shoulder in a really low contest, that sort of contest that's very hard to beat belly in. So those are things that are unfortunate. I'm not sure that New Zealand aren't in too similar a place. That just the games are so tough in TRC, and for us, I'm really proud of the way the boys have been stepping up against teams that are significantly higher ranked, particularly 18 months ago. That I do think there's growth in the team, and I can't guarantee that's going to be linear, but I can pretty much guarantee the effort's going to be there.
How are you approaching this weekend, both as a one-off game but also with one eye on the Rugby Championship standings? Because obviously you're still in with a shot to win the whole thing. It's not entirely within your own hands, given South Africa and New Zealand are ahead of you. But how do you approach that, knowing that there is potentially silverware on the line, while also keeping the focus on the short term and simply winning the game?
Yeah, I think we only ever go out to win games and to stack enough good moments in the game to win them. And so for us, the silverware, make no mistake, that'd be a massive bonus. It's a long time since we've even been in a competitive position for the Rugby Championship, and if we could get a win this week, at worst we'd finish second, I think. So that would be incredible. Compared to last season and the season before that, where there were the winless sort of season that was in the Rugby Championship. Building our way forward, I do think that it gives us a little bit more confidence.
Joe, I'd imagine you would have wanted James Slipper forever, but he can't continue forever. Can you take us into those conversations, sort of how that news panned out? That he's going to
Yeah, he's a legend. He's such a great bloke, and he and I had a coffee early Monday morning. Slips. He's got two young kids, obviously, so he says, "Do you want to go late morning, 6:30 a.m?" So that was great. He and I had a coffee, and Slips is the sort of guy, if you asked him to keep going for the team and the team needed him, he'd keep going. But he's ready to hang his boots up, and he's also conscious. He wants the team to be best prepared going forward, and he doesn't perceive himself being available for the Rugby World Cup or even next season. So for him, the best thing is the next 5 games we've got in the spring tour for the players we've got to start sharing that time and for him to step away. But he'll be missed massively, not just for on-field performance, but he's a big bit of the glue that keeps the team tight.
Joe, there's been some news on R360 this week. It's obviously been reported that there are Wallabies linked with that tournament, updates on dates, etc. What's your position on where that's all at the moment? It's been reported that RA probably won't allow them to come back and play for the Wallabies. Has it been talked about? And as a national coach, where do you see that at the moment?
Yeah, it hasn't been talked about at all. I'm not sure what players have been approached, if any, but I think the one thing I've learned, and being so old, it won't really concern me. I'll be retired at that stage. But the things you can't control, you just try not to get distracted by. And so for me and for the group at the moment, our sole focus is on Saturday and what happens beyond that with 360. If it does become viable, then that'll be a bridge that gets crossed by RA and players and the group that are putting it together.
Joe, so Will Skelton feeling this week he's made a decent trek away from France to be here for this game. He must be ready to lay down a marker.
Yeah, again, Will's a bit like Slips in the environment. He's I was going to say he's a big piece of glue. He's a big influence, and he helps generate a little bit of confidence. He has an aura about him, Will, and he's very skillful for such a big man. So those are the elements. He's trained really well. Tuesday, Thursday, he was here on Friday. Trained on Saturday, obviously not with the team, but then by the time we got here on Sunday evening, he was up and ready to go.
What do you expect from the All Blacks? They've made a decent number of changes to their starting side. Scott Barrett back, Quincy Pyre at the centres. What do you expect from them this weekend?
Yeah, they're a couple of really physical players. I'm expecting them to be physical. Lester Whanganuku on the left wing. He's a very powerful carrier. Loves to get in amongst the pick and go and is very dynamic there. So I think that they will be bristling with physicality. I thought Larkai came onto the field last weekend and was very dynamic. Obviously Artie is as well. So that back row are very dynamic, and I think a couple of changes in the front row as well. I think they're through injury, obviously, with Ethan de Groot getting a head knock last week. So again, they've got strength and depth. We know they've got strength and depth, and that's demonstrated by, in the competition we play in, they've got 3 of the 4 best teams based on the Super Rugby competition. So we know that's not something that's going to be a distraction for us, because we know how tough they're going to be.
Just touching back on 360, you've been involved in the game for a long time. Is that concept something that excites you, or do you worry about, I guess, the traditional competitions, how they might be affected?
Yeah, I grew up in the amateur era, and without really making myself feel particularly old, I still love the tradition. Like in New Zealand, the NPC, the Shoot Shield. I still love watching those games. The Hospital Cup. See the lads watching the Hospital Cup when we were in Townsville. The amount of noise. I think that's because we've got 4 brothers guys in the team, and everyone else was against brothers, I think. And it was such a good close finish with Bond University there. So. I think with a concept like 360, you tend to get further away from the roots of the game, and that's where I was pretty much embedded in the roots of the game as a young kid growing up, and so it's a little bit foreign, but I guess it's a little bit akin to the IPL, isn't it? Where that was transformative to a degree to cricket. I've got to say I really enjoy watching Big Bash. I think it's a really good concept. At the same time, the traditions of longer term cricket, like 5-day cricket, or the games that are played for 3 or 4 days, that I still see appeal in those. So if the balance can be maintained, and I'm just not sure about so much of it and what it actually is going to look like. It's hard to predict.
Do you think
2 more, please.
In terms of the younger generation, do you think that could be a way to bring them on board, whereas maybe they wouldn't have come on board? And also, in terms of the cities that they're talking about, which are not rugby heartlands, a lot of them, what do you think that could potentially do for growing the game in terms of the whole pie of the game?
Yeah, I think it's a really good question, and it's hard to it's another hard question to answer. We had a sold out stadium in Allianz, and there were lots of kids, and I've had some unbelievable letters from kids. Kids who said how proud they are to support the Wallabies and things like that. I still think there is connection there, and it's our responsibility to keep growing that connection in our current competitions. In a place like Madrid, for example, Spain have been coming up the ranks really well in World Rugby, in sevens particularly, obviously, but in World Rugby, and they play a great brand of rugby. Portugal at the last World Cup, a team based in Lisbon, but Portugal were outstanding and great to watch, coached by a French guy I'd know well, and Patrice Lagisquet, and so those influences, those ripples are already happening. I guess that would put a totally different flavour on it, wouldn't it? Where you're talking about Dubai, you're talking about totally different environments where they will be different events. I think it'll be an event more than just a game. A game of rugby between two teams becomes a festival of spectator engagement. I think that's what the differentiation they're looking for, and I guess that's their challenge, to make sure that that's what happens.
Joe, you've
Last one,
known
please.
Mike Cron for a long time. Can you tell us about his work here, the legacy he leaves, and then also what John Luna's role will be going forward?
Yeah. So John's going to come in and replace Mike on the spring tour, and potentially beyond that. Mike has been a guy I've known for over 20 years, and he actually messaged me when I got announced as taking over the Wallabies job, and he said, "Hey, there's a couple of guys over here in Perth. I think they might be all right for you in the future. Jeremy Williams and Will Harris." And I looked at that text and I thought, rang him. I said, "Chrono, you like those boys? Oh, why don't you come and help me coach them?" So that interview lasted then 3 seconds. Okay. And not begrudgingly, but dragging him out of retirement, he's gold. He's absolute gold. And you could talk to Slips, you could talk to any of the front rowers that he's adopted. He's just, again, he's fantastic glue in the environment. He's got that vast knowledge, that depth of knowledge, understands all the biomechanics of the scrum, all the tricks of the trade, and I think he's been a massive part of making our scrum a lot more stable and even formidable at times, where we can even impose ourselves. I think he's got the real confidence of not just the front row. He's very much imbued in the whole 8 insofar as delivering at scrum time. So, yeah, and he's a great bloke as well. I don't know if you've ever had the chance to talk scrums with Mike Cron, but you won't understand any of it, but his enthusiasm will blow you away. So he's an absolute champion.